Okay, welcome to lesson 1, everyone. We're going to begin at the beginning, because that was what makes sense. Now, this lesson lesson 1 is about forming a foundation where form comes from flow. Form that comes from flow. Lesson 1. I'm going to take it right back to where lettering, graph all began with some tagging. Now, let's imagine the chisel tip is this beautiful shape pen. Now, if I'm writing with a chisel tip, if I go down or up, it's fat. If I go across, it's thin. So if you flow, notice the thin to thick flow. And it creates drama, creates tension, it creates a beautiful balance in your piece. Now, if we take this principle, we build a foundation from this principle, you'll get a real good strong beginning to your letter frame. Okay? So let's go to this. So the thick, say if your letter, let's go with B. This main part here will be going down, and thus it'll be thick. At any point where the flow goes sideways, it'll be thin. But it won't be thin all the way because there'll be a slight bit of down here. So you bring it to thick, back to thin, back to thin, back to thick, and so on, and the pattern continues. B. Here is where you begin to understand your flow and your balance in your letters. It all comes from a reality, the chisel tip. Does that make sense? So I advise doing this with your whole alphabet and get used to it. Now I'm going to also break this theory down further and introduce you to spines. Now I say spines are these anywhere where the flow goes up and down, anywhere of strength, which is the thick part. And from these spines, flow grow. The thin parts. This theory will lead you onto the path of wild style, which I'll introduce to you later on. But for now, I'm just going to go look into the spine theory, which is the thick and thin flow, into more detail. So your spine, let's go for an F. So technically you could have 3 spines there, because they're all strong flows. But if you go with the thick and thin principle, then you have 2 thin parts there, thin flows there. So your spine would be here, your thin part there, but you could maybe add on a spine here, coming from that direction. Now from these spines, flow can go. So let's go again. Got your first spine. Remember, when you do these spines, think of the energy you form. So instead of just doing a flat end, create some sort of drama with the shape, putting some nice cuts and angles to it. Experiment. Depending on which way you put it, it could change the whole letter. So let's just have a little play. I'm going to choose this way first. Okay, so from this spine, so the flow goes down, as if I'm writing with a big pen. From this flow, it hits the bottom. Then it recoils up and kicking out you see how that, I'm going to continue that flow round with a little flick into here. And this is where your flow starts to make your form. So it flies right down your spine, recoils off the bottom, shoots up to here, and then you have to close it nicely, put some closure on it, almost like a full stop with your flow. Because you've generated all this energy, you've got to put it somewhere, you've got to put a closure to it. And again, you can have another flow coming off this bottom corner for your last detail of your F. Yeah? Let's go a little bit further with this. So say your spine, the thick part of your flow, I'm going to have a flow in my spine. So I might go bottom corner, top corner, here. Hence why you've got these little bits. I'm trying to steer the energy, and this kind of keeps that spine as a whole unit. So I just feel like maybe I don't want to disturb this point now, so I'm going to bring in another flow which will hold on to this. This is like my foundation pillar to my letter. So I might come in with another flow joining onto here. See, it's still the F. I've just added a flow onto the initial flow. And again, like so. And maybe I might think, well, that's a bit too thick and heavy here, so I can maybe cut into this. Trim it out a bit. And start playing around with it. Maybe extend that flow into here, so it comes back into this pillar, joining in. So this, for me, I feel like I need, because of the thickness here, I'm going to start putting a bit more thickness here, just to balance out the letter. Because again, your brain likes to see things that, in a way, reflect a reality. If something doesn't look right, it's because it's lacking a reality that it exists in. For example, center of gravity, balance, proportion. These are all things that we see every day of our life. And so these things need to echo within your lettering. Otherwise your brain will be like, that's not feasible. And thus it won't look nice. Does that all make sense? I hope so. So right now, this is what I'm doing. I'm just off of my spine. I'm trying to find some sort of thing that can just bring it to completion, bring it to balance. And this is where wild style really starts coming in, because you start putting flows upon flows, and it's just seeing where it all leads to. It's like a puzzle. Just start building with it. I'm not really feeling this one, but you get the idea. I guess I should keep playing with it until I do like it, because then it will show you my path to it, I guess. And maybe inspire you to risk these paths as well. You know what it is? I think it's that. That makes it look too much like an E. It's getting a bit closer. That's pretty rad. It's pretty cool. Let's give it a little lining so you can see it a bit clearly. Apply around that good. Get that really nice. So notice I'm keeping that whole drama of thick and thin. I mean, I'm now bending that rule, but it all stems from that original thick-thin principle. Just gives that nice sort of tension to the flow. Really starts to pull your eyes around. And that's quite an elaborate F, considering it kind of came from that approach. See how the flow? So my main spine. From that spine I shot in another flow to the F. And from that F another flow grows, which then comes back to the spine, comes back to the centre, holds it all in, keeps it strong. It doesn't start falling apart. It holds itself up, has a good centre of balance, and it's got dynamic, thick and thin, stretch, pull, keep that tension and that strength. There you go. Let's try another one. Let's try Z. Actually, yeah, Z. Because Z's and S's are very similar. With a lot of letters, you have there's quite a, and you can often see a flow going down and up, like the main spine, the main chunk. But with S's, it's kind of like and the Z's, it's more of a sideways flow. So the spines, instead of having the down and up being the thick, we're going to have the across could be thick. So you've got the top part of your Z. Then I'm going to flow off of that spine. You've got the bottom half of your Z. So thick, thin, thick. Yeah. You can always flip it. Let's try the thick on the diagonal. And the thin coming up here. And it just brings some chunk to it, some balance. We're going to put a bit of thick on the flicks. So notice, let's put a little bit in there. That's quite nice. So the flow goes. See. And when you do these things, a lot of difference. There's a lot of variety you can form on how your letters look by how you structure the links. So say where this flow links to this flow. I could have linked it at this point and then shoots across, but I didn't. I linked it from this point. So this flow matches this angle here, and then it joins into this. And up here, I'm going to do the same thing, because I don't think, see this flow, if I attach that flow to this spine, it doesn't look very strong. It looks a bit as if this is detached. It's going to fall off. So to make it part of this and make it stronger, I'm going to make that flow to be part of this. Do you see? Do you see what I'm trying to get at? So this is the flow that comes up and then it joins this spine. And hence why there's this little detail here, this little shape, this little line. It's not just a point. I made it look like it's part of this flow. Yeah? Thick. Going up and down, thin. Thick. Going up and down, thin. Thick. Going up and down. We can flip it. Thick, thin, thick. An S. Let's look at an S. So in an S, let's try. We're going to do a skeleton first. So when I say skeleton, just your baseline. And perhaps this time, instead of flowing from the top, I'm going to flow from the bottom, and look at the difference it makes. So that's another thing you could try. When you start practicing these letters, maybe start the flow from a different origin point. So this is my origin point down here. And I'm going to put a nice strong base. And this is where the rule of thick and thin, I'm kind of going to throw it out the window in a way. I'm still going to use thick and thin for drama and tension in your letter, but here there's no real rule. This has gone down the flow, but it's also gone across. But I've kept it kind of thick all the way through. I'm going to make it thin here, otherwise I think it will get too cluttered. Then it'll come back to thick again. So this is where you're going to start developing your own kind of flavour, your own vibe. I might add on a nice little flick here. Just extend that flow so it ricochets in, you see? Bouncing that energy around like some sort of crazy pogo stick. Let's put some cut-ins here. These nice little ways you can add flavour and detail. Maybe some sharp points on your curves. Give it a bit of attitude. It's like putting your letters into some sort of armament, making them look battle ready. If that's your kind of vibe. Or you can make it whatever you want. You can make it perhaps like a lava. Some notes, or some rocks or something. So now I'm showing you lovely little details like cutting in. Now so you've got your framework and now you're sort of chiseling it or shaping it like it's clay. Putting these beautiful little details, little texts to get some flavour. I really like that S. That's real nice. Yeah. Well, I think that will do for your first lesson. I mean, that's a lot to start to play on. So, let's just recap quickly. Remember, form comes from flow. And the flow originates from the chisel tip. With your downs and your crosses. So if you have stuff for inspiration, maybe get a chisel tip. Or if you haven't got a chisel tip, I can't even see that now. If you haven't really got a chisel tip, what you can do is make your own with 2 pencils and a third fakie in the middle. See, now you've got your width. So if I'm to draw here, do you see it? That shows you where your thin and thick is. Okay, so this is a real nice concept to grasp early on. It gives such a quick dynamic to your letters. And then from this you can just start playing with them. You see? So from the thick and thin, you have your spines. So your spines are any flow which are thick. This is the strength of your letter. This is where all the limbs come from. And maybe think about the balance point at this point as well. Where is gravity? How does this letter sit? These are things you want to start thinking about. Because when you know where it sits, you can gauge how it wants to lean, how it wants to put its swag on it, you know? It's all about creating that flow, that movement, that drama. And then from that, you start to get the wild style. Start creeping in the wild style if you're confident enough. That's where flow comes from, flow. So you're adding more flow lines. Trying to, expand on the story. This is your main plot line, and you've got all these sub-stories happening, which are all still part of the main plot, but they go off on their own sort of crazy adventures, you know? Come back to source. Come back to center. Grow from center, flow to center. It's a beautiful thing. Have fun. Thank you for watching.